What's up, everybody? Chicago Goonie here, bringing another Arsenal talk. I just need to talk. I just need to talk and talk and talk to get a lot of things off my chest, and hopefully, I'll feel better by the end of this video. Maybe I'll feel a little bit more calmer to get a lot of this crap off my chest because it's getting to the point to where I'm just completely frustrated. Once again, another summer fumbled around, looking like dirtbags, looking like idiots, looking like we're a small club and not a big club. It's one PR mess at the end. It's just one after another. It's just like a punching bag. Where everybody's punching bag on social media, in the news outlets. You name it. We're a punching bag, and people love it. And we're the ones that are just standing here with our dicks in the wind, not fucking even even knowing how to react to anything anymore. Because we have to be used to it by now, right? Signing one player every window, signing some youth kids that probably won't contribute to the club or the first team for a couple of years. I mean, it's every summer. You have Stan Kroenke shooting himself in the foot, saying that winning isn't everything. I didn't buy this club to win things. That whole mess. Then he comes out and says, it's difficult when you don't win things. I mean, this guy keeps on shooting himself in the foot. He should just remain silent Stan. He should just remain stupid Stan and just shut his mouth and just stay over in the U.S., stay over here in this country, and just put duct tape over his mouth. Because it seems like now every time he opens his mouth, he fucks up. But he's not the only one. Ivan Gazidis, he fucks up at least 3 or 4 times a year in some interview. Arsene Wenger, he's been shooting himself in the foot for the last 3 or 4 years now. But of course, I called this it was right at the end of the year, one of my videos saying that at some point, Arsene Wenger or even Ivan Zitas will make the excuse of why we don't have to spend any money, and of course, it's going to be Leicester City. I said Leicester City is one of the worst things that could happen. Yeah, it's a great story. They deserve to win. They wanted to win. But at the same time, it's probably one of the worst things that could happen to this club. Mainly because they didn't spend any money. I mean, what did Mahrez cost? Something like 300 or 400 thousand. Now there's reports for us saying that we're about to pay anywhere from 45 to 50 million for him. That's a pretty good return for Leicester City, but at the same time, it just gives these guys more of an excuse not to spend money. Arsene Wenger in the last week or two saying almost the same exact things, but also saying, "Oh, we're still very active in the transfer window. We're still looking for a striker and a defender." I'm sorry, but defenders are not hard to come by. They're not hard to get, unless like Napoli with their center back who they want something astronomical like 40 45 million for. That's kind of a little bit crazy right there. I'm sorry, but that's not something that I would be interested in paying that much money for. But these guys, they just keep on shooting themselves in the foot time after time after time. But then some people will go into the Mahrez saying, this is the AKB's excuses right now, saying, "Oh, who knew who Vardy was or Mahrez was or Conte was a year or two ago?" Okay, you guys didn't know who they were. I didn't know who they were. Obviously, Arsenal didn't know who the fuck they were either. And you're talking about one of the biggest clubs in the world who has resources on top of resource, who has 1,000 times more resources than Leicester City does, but yet Leicester City were the ones that found these people, found these players. If you look at our scouting network, I mean, obviously, if you're going to scout Europe, what are the big four? I mean, we don't really scout Italy all that much. I mean, when's the last time we had an Italian player on the team other than I forgot his name, a goalkeeper a few years ago that we got on loan. But how many Italian players do we really have, or we've had at Arsenal? Hardly any. So what does that leave us? That leaves us obviously with the UK, or basically England, France, Germany, and Spain. Those are the big four that we would scout heavily throughout an entire year, year after year. Hey, Mahrez was in League Two, the second tier of French football last year. Same with Conte. More French players. Mahrez was born in France, but now he plays for Algeria. But at the same time, it's still, you know, it's still in France. Supposedly, we have a French football god at the helm as our manager. And like I pointed out in my last video with the English and French generations, more French players just slipping through the cracks. So, what is our scouting network? What is our scouting really doing right now? Obviously, not a whole damn lot, because if you look, if you exit the youth academy altogether, who has Arsene Wenger bought over the last, say, 8 or 9 years that is worth a damn? One of those small budget buys. Who? And who have we sold off for that cost 30, 40, 50 million pounds? Not a single player. You can't use RVP. You can't use Cesc Fabregas, because we bought those guys eons ago. But supposedly Arsene Wenger is this great football mind who can just scout talent like no one else, who can pick out a player and just say he's going to be the next Messi or whoever. Who has he bought in the last 7 or 8 years for a budget buy? Can't really use Jack, because he's been in the academy since he's what, 7 or 8 years old. Aaron Ramsey, we picked him up what, 17 or 18 years old. Oxlade Chamberlain, same thing. Theo Walcott, 16 years old. So you can't really use any of those. Who did he find that's over the age of 20 over the last even several years? Who has he found? No one. Who has the scouting department found? No one. So what is our scouts really doing? What are they told by Arsene Wenger to look out for? I would love the fact if someone said, if there was some sort of report 2 years ago or a year and a half ago that said that someone identified Mahrez, and Arsene Wenger looked at him and said, no, that he's not good enough. That would be the tip of the iceberg right there. That'd be the Titanic running into another fucking iceberg after they hit the other one. Insult to injury. So it's like, what is our scouting department really fucking doing at Arsenal, other than scouting youth players? Obviously. Oh, I'm sorry. We scout the fucking J League. How many of these J League players have we brought into Arsenal, and how many of them have panned out? Not a fucking single one of them. But yet we're still buying them. It's like Arsene Wenger is like, he's just trying to prove a point. Eventually, there's going to be at least one player that comes out of that J League who's going to make an impact on the first team. Just so he can say, see, look, I know what I'm doing. But how many other failures has he had previous years? But yet we're still buying these kids. He's like gushing in the media about this kid. Plays in the fucking J League, man. He doesn't play in the second tier of French football. He doesn't play in the second tier of German football. Spain, England. The fucking J League, for Christ's sake. And none of us would know it even exists, for one, if we didn't take tours over there in Asia. If we didn't know that's where Arsene Wenger came from 20 some odd years ago. How many people are actually buying up those kids over there? There's what, maybe 4 or 5 Japanese players who are actually worth a damn playing in some of the top 5 leagues in Europe. So what does that really say, honestly? So again, what is our scouting department really doing out there? What are they spending their money on? What kind of reports are they reporting back to an Arsene Wenger? But yet we keeps buying them up over and over again, and it's just annoying. Honestly, from the reports that I've read about this Japanese kid, Arsenal is really pressing so that he can get his work permit. There's your striker, ladies and gentlemen. Giroud, this Japanese kid, Sonogo, and Akpom. Can't win with that. That's 3 unproven strikers that we know that they can't get it done yet. And then of course Giroud, who went 800 plus minutes without a goal last season. That's our strike force, unfortunately. The shocking thing about this Mahrez news, first and foremost, it was announced by Eurosport France. Now, if you remember from last year, Karim Benzema was announced in the gossip column of Eurosport UK. Now, once this news got out and people were trying to uh, compare the two, people were saying, "Well, the UK one, that was just gossip. That was all bullshit." Trying to believe that this report was true. Now, if you read the article, it didn't really say much other than that Mars is going to Arsenal. There was no sources. There was no even. Uh, we have a source inside of Mahrez's camp. You know, I don't care if it's Eurosport UK, Eurosport France, Eurosport Germany. They're all owned by the same company. And this is what some people couldn't wrap their minds around. They already ruined their reputation on Eurosport UK because they announced that Karim Benzema was coming to Arsenal last summer. Their reputation is spoiled. Excuse me, is spoiled right now. So they can't really announce anything. All these sites have their own rumor mills. They have all their own gossip. They were trying to say that this Eurosport France, they don't post stuff like this. Bullshit. Even Sky Sports has their own gossip column. BBC, same damn thing. Every single newspaper, the Guardian, the Mirror, the Sun, the Metro, everything, they have their own gossip columns. So if they posted this to the Eurosport UK, it would get debunked immediately. No Arsenal fan would ever believe that because they fucked up the year before. So who would believe it? Hey, why not post it to Eurosport France? Why? Because Arsenal is currently playing one of our teams in the second tier of French football, Lens. And who was at the game too? Mahrez's agent. Where did Mahrez come from last year? The second tier of French football. Do you not think that Mahrez's agent has clients still in the second tier who possibly has clients playing on the field at that exact moment? There's video evidence of him being at the game, but he came out almost immediately saying that I was not at the game for any type of transfer rumors or news or anything. I was just at the game. Who knows? He probably has one, maybe even 2 players that's on that team on his client list, but we don't know that. But people are speculating left and right, blah blah blah. But to get on with it, long story short, I said at the end of the year in my transfer stuff, we should be in for this guy. We should be in for Mahrez at the beginning. Not now, not this late in the window. We should have been in for him months ago. He is that good of a player. People are saying they're trying to compare. Well, Aaron Ramsey had that 13-14 season. Now look at him. He's dog shit. But if you look at Mahrez play, how good he is on the ball, passing, shooting, he's not the greatest defender. I mean, let's be honest. But he's better than the Ox, Theo, Joel Campbell. He's Iwobi. He's better than all of them. And when you can upgrade a single position, you go out there and buy it, regardless if it's a need or not. If you can upgrade that position and you can plug in a week in and week out starter, you do it. And this is the frustrating part of being an Arsenal fan is that we have the money, we just don't want to spend it. Arsene Wenger, people like to celebrate him as some kind of this grand economist, that he knows business. Well, if he knows business, then he would understand that inflation happens every fucking year. It doesn't matter if it's in food products, drink products, housing, clothing, shoes. It doesn't matter. Inflation happens with everything. Whatever product is being sold, you can guarantee the following year it's going to go up. It might only go up 10 cents, it might only go up 50 cents, maybe a dollar, but it goes up every year. Cost of living goes up every fucking year. The same with football. The cost of transfer fees goes up every year because so much money is being filtered into every single league, especially the English Premier League. It's been, the graph is out there. Arsenal was the first English Premier League team to eclipse the 100 million mark. So every team knows this. Whether they buy domestically or abroad, every player is going to be hiked up between 5 and 10 million more because they know that we have the money to spend. But Arsene Wenger, I guarantee Granit Xhaka's transfer fee was hiked up at least 5 or 10 million more because of this. You look at players like Lacazette, Higuain, it's all inflated. People are so worried about paying so much more money for this X, Y, and Z player. Who gives a shit? Now, buying Pogba for over 100 million, yeah, that's fucking nuts. But that's how desperate Man United is at this point. And they're not afraid to spend their money. I mean, they've spent more money than anyone, I think, over the last 3 years. But yet, they're still trying. They're saying, fuck it, we have the money, we're going to go out and spend it. If this is what's going to make Manchester United again of the Fergie years, so be it. We don't give a shit. Because they know if they start winning Premier League titles again, they start winning maybe a Champions League here or there, they're just going to start rolling in more and more fans. And what does more fans mean? More merchandise sales, more of everything. More money of TV rights and everything. Like I said in one of my other videos, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Barca, Real Madrid, all these clubs understand that the revenue is just going to become greater and greater and greater. Except for Arsenal. Arsenal, for some odd fucking reason, doesn't get it. They think this 100 million, they'll never see that ever again. They're projecting possibly in 2 years, possibly 2 to 3 years, that the champions of the English Premier League, if they're one of the top 4 or 5, you're saying Arsenal, Manchester United, City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. I mean, those are kind of like the big five. They're projecting in 2 or 3 years that the champions of the English Premier League will make at minimum 120 million pounds for winning the league because of the access of money that's coming in because of the TV rights. The TV shit comes, it strikes right now this season. This is when the big money really starts rolling in. But for whatever fucking reason, Arsenal does not understand this. They do not understand this fucking logic. And of course, when we're negotiating, with players, a lot of people think it's Arsene Wenger negotiating, but it's not. He can talk to the player, he can talk to the agent briefly, probably, but at the same time, they're not. He's not making the total deal. He's making possibly the evaluation, but at the end of the day, he's not doing the deals. Who's doing the deals? Ivan Gazidis and Dick Law, who is probably one of the dumbest motherfuckers on this fucking planet, who should never negotiate a single contract ever. He's the idiot who had the bright idea to do 40 million and £1. And what did that do? That made us a fucking laughing stock. That made Liverpool laugh at us and say, "Go fuck yourself." The incompetence starts from the top with stupid Stan, and it goes all the way down to Arsene Wenger. Like I said, how we weren't in for Mahrez months ago rather than now is a mystery to me. And let's move on to strikers real quick here. And this is what my other episode was mainly about. It was about like 30 or 40 minutes of just talking about strikers. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me of how Arsenal is attacking this. Okay? People want Aubameyang. He ain't coming. He already said it today in the news that the only way I'm leaving Dortmund is for Real Madrid. He said that before. He said it way early in the window, even after the season. Naming off some other players, but I'm just going to get to this. Why wouldn't Arsenal go after players who want to actually leave? Higuain, he basically said, "I'm not signing a contract extension. I want to leave." That's when Arsenal news started boiling around. He's going to Juventus. Juventus, I mean, of all teams, Juventus doesn't buy these high-priced players like this. They don't spend this type of money, but they are now. And they're not even fucking close to the type of money that we have. But yet they're saying, you know what, we're going to take this Paul Pogba money and we're going to buy Higuain. Something around 65 to 75 million pound or euros. A team like Juventus, who has a track record of not doing deals like this, are doing deals like this now. It's shocking, but of course we're sitting over here with 200 million pounds in the fucking bank, scratching our asses. But Higuain, he wanted to leave, but we're not making a bid. We're not making an approach because Higuain, if he really wanted to, could say, "I only want to go to Arsenal, only deal with Arsenal." But of course, Arsenal doesn't want to pay the 65 million euro buyout clause. Why not? He's 28. He's going to be 29 this season. Could probably get 3 years left on that body. Who else wants to leave? Lacazette. He's another one. He made a he favorited a tweet last summer when all the links were to him to go into Arsenal, and he favorited one of the tweets, and of course, a few weeks later he unfavorited it. But the screenshots are there. You can go on Twitter and you can find it. He wants to leave. He obviously wants to leave. So why aren't we in for him? Because we won't pay 45 million euros? I mean, what does that equate to? I mean, what does that equate to? Maybe 30, 36, 37 million pounds? How does that break our bank? It doesn't. Even if they wanted 50 million euros, you know, Arsene Wenger is looking at, well, 3 years ago we bought Mesut Ozil, who's the best number 10 in the world, for 42 million pounds. We bought Alexis Sanchez for 32 million pounds 2 years ago. But I'm not going to pay this type of money for this. It's inflation, buddy. But there's another striker who, if was offered, would leave Leon in a heartbeat. So why aren't we in for him? Another player, Romelu Lukaku, who is a proven BPL scorer with a scrub ass team behind him, still banging in goals left and right. Is Ross Barkley even close to a Mesut Ozil? Fuck no. You trying to tell me Aaron Lennon is on the same page, same level as Alexis Sanchez? Fuck no. Is Gareth Barry the same level as Granit Xhaka? Maybe 15 years ago. But yet, just imagine Romelu Lukaku. I mean, he said it. He's been saying it ever since he finally got to Everton that he belongs at a big club. I know previous this year he said the only two teams that he would go to is Manchester United and Bayern Munich, but those two teams are not going to buy him. Manchester United is not going to buy him because Jose Mourinho already sold him once. He's not going to buy him. Bayern Munich, they have their own thing over there. They buy pure quality. But yet here's Romelu Lukaku basically begging for a big team to come and buy him. He said it in the I think it was the Guardian. He had an interview with it. He basically said, "I play with a chip on my shoulder because I belong at a big club." Everton. Obviously, Everton's not a big club or a huge club, but they're a decent sized club. Yeah, they don't spend a whole lot of money, but they're respectable. They're going to be a whole lot better this year with Ronald Koeman as their manager. They're going to be really set up and organized now, especially with the talent that he's going to have at his disposal. They're going to be a tough team to beat this year, I think. Because Roberto Martinez, I mean, that guy didn't have a clue of what he did, what he was doing. Yeah, he had a good attacking sense, but when it came to defense and set pieces, I mean, they didn't even do anything defensively in training or set pieces in training because he thought that it would jeopardize the beautiful game. What kind of fucking manager is that? Thank God he didn't. People were begging him to come to Arsenal as our next manager because of his attacking style and shit. Thank God. We'd be a total fucking disaster under that guy. But Roman Lukaku, he wants to get out of there. He still has something to prove. And that's the type of player that you want. A player who is going to. who, I mean, those are the best players to have. I mean, look at Vardy. Even Vardy last season, the way he played. He had something to prove to people that says, well, you can't make it, kid. You can't be at a big club. This is what people are talking about with Romelu Lukaku. So he's always going to give you everything that he has every single game. And he's always going to try to score goals for you every single game because he has something to prove. But yet he wants to leave, but we're not in for him. Which has been kind of odd this whole transfer window that um, his name only came up maybe a few times and it's just been dead silent. Supposedly Chelsea's back in for him, possibly. They're willing to pay the 65 million pounds supposedly for him, which would be fucking hilarious. I mean, you have Manchester United who sent Pogba back out on a free, and now they're buying him back, and now Chelsea sent him to Everton for 25 million pounds, I believe was the price tag when they sold him to Everton, and now they're going to buy him back for 65 million. It's almost like Chelsea's waiting for Manchester United to announce the Pogba deal, so then they can announce Romelu Lukaku, so they're not the only ones who look like idiots. But why aren't we in for these strikers who want to leave? Arsenal's a big club. We have Champions League football to offer. It's the best league in the world as far as money goes. You're going to get a good wages, decent wages at least. But yet we're not in for these players for some reason. We need to get the best out of Mesut Ozil, Lexi Sanchez, our midfield. You look at that midfield that we're going to have. I mean, Arsene Wenger is going to have a serious problem, and it's a good problem. Granit Xhaka, Francis Coquelin, Jack Wilshere, Santi Gazzola, Aaron Ramsey, El Nani. He has all these players to choose from in the midfield. That's a great problem to have. We're going to have one of the best midfields in the English Premier League this year. But yet, we're not going to get the most out of them. We're not going to get the best, the most out of a number, or the best number 10 in the world by having that fucking donkey up top. And then having some J League player in Sinogo backing him up. That's a fucking joke. It's like they're almost saying like, oh well, we can wait till February until Welbeck gets back, because by then Giroud's legs will fall off and then Welbeck will take over. Dude, he's coming back from another serious knee injury. Because honestly, if Danny Welbeck wasn't injured, chances are we wouldn't buy a striker at all, and maybe we would focus more on a winger. But the financial status of Arsenal Football Club currently, we can buy a striker, we can buy a winger, and we can buy another defender. Per Mertesacker is out for 5 months now, supposedly, with a knee injury. That must be an MCL, because an ACL is anywhere from 6 to 9 months, which that's what, obviously Danny Welbeck has. So it must be a meniscus tear. It's either MCL or PCL, one of the two, because those are like not the most severe. The ACL is the most severe. So he's going to be out. So we're going to have two kids in Cullum Chambers and Robert Holden, who looks like a promising player, but again, he was playing in the fucking championship. So who knows who knows if he can make that jump from the championship to the Premier League and do anything. Plus, he's only 20 years old. Yes, he has a bright future just like Cullum Chambers, but how much can you really depend on these kids? And then you have Gabriel and Costioni, who are just going to be run into the ground this whole entire season if we don't go out there and buy another center half, which we should have been doing in the fucking first place. Because now it puts the back burner. Are we going to put Cullum Chambers on loan now? Because he was supposed to have a loan move to Southampton. Now that might be on hold because of this injury to Per Mertesacker, who honestly shouldn't be with the team anyway. He's a liability. I've explained all that. I'm not going to go back into it, but he shouldn't be with the team, period. If he's just there for a fucking being a cheerleader, whatever. I'm sick and tired of, that's why we hunt on to Arteta, Flamini, Rosicky, all these guys. We hunt on them because there's that veteran presence on the training ground. Okay, as far as I know, Robert Perez has been on the training ground a lot over the last few years. And he's going to be this year again. I'm sure Thierry Henry will probably visit the training ground a lot too. A lot of ex-players. Freddie Ljungberg's going to be there as well too. He's part of the under 16 team now. What better mentors could you possibly have than those guys? But you need a Per Mertesacker or whoever to be your cheerleader? And from what what things are saying, it seems like Matthew Debussy is going to go to Bordeaux. He's going to be sold back to them. So that leaves the door open for possibly Carlin Jacobson to be the backup to Hector Bellerin. But then there's also news that we're trying to get a right back possibly. But this transfer, I mean, if you look at all the past transfer windows, there's only been 1 year from the 13-14 season on that we bought more than one player. And in the summer windows, in the winter windows. One player. More than one player. That was the summer of Alexis Sanchez. That was our best window that we've had in, probably like 10 years. We had Alexis Sanchez. David Ospina is probably going to stay now because of that fucking coup in Turkey. Because Fenerbahce was supposed to be buying him. But it looks like if I was David Ospina, I'd be like, fuck it, dude. I'll ride the bench at Arsenal if I can keep my family safe. In England, I would ride the bench for another fucking year. Fuck it, why not? Because I wouldn't go anywhere near that country, to be honest with you. So you had Alexis Sanchez, Ospina, Matthew Debussy, Colum Chambers, and then Danny Welbeck in that summer. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good window. You had needs in in something for the future, all in that window. But since then, Mesut Ozil was the only signing. That winter window, we didn't sign anybody. We got Kim Kellstrom on loan. Of course, the following summer, that was Alexis. The winter window was Gabriel. Last summer was Czech. This winter window was El Nani. You cannot win the Premier League or Champions League by signing one fucking player. Of course, Granit Xhaka, one player again. Because honestly, how many minutes and games is Robert Holding going to actually get? How many? If this J League kid can get a work permit, how many games is he actually going to get? You need players who are going to have an immediate impact from day one, who can actually be a possible real starter for this team. You cannot win things by signing one fucking player. You see the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid. You see all these teams who just get it, who just understand the business side, who get that buying players is an asset to the club, which makes clubs that much more wealthier. They get it, and if they get it wrong, they wave the white flag and they actually admit, yes, we were wrong to sell this player, but we're gonna try and buy another player. We're gonna do it better this time. You got to trip and fall a few times before you can keep on walking straight. But Arsenal, who fucking knows? It's going to be toxic. It's going to be so terrible if they go into this new season and they haven't signed anybody other than Granit Xhaka. Good luck to Arsene Wenger. It's just going to get worse and worse as the season goes on. And you know what? Drew might get off to a hot start like he normally does every single year. But then by the time December, January, February hits, his legs fall off and he disappears for a few months. And that when that does happen, and it's going to happen, he's consistent at that at least. That he just fucking disappears throughout a fucking season. People are just going to go ape shit. And honestly, I think our luck has run out. There's nothing that shows me that we're going to even make it to top four this year. Because if you look at it, man, Jose Mourinho prior he told the Manchester United board and the owners, he basically probably said, "Fuck Europa League. I don't even give a shit about that. I'm going to put out a decent team, but nothing that'll win it, because I'm just going to focus on the league and that's it." Chelsea, all they have is the league and the FA Cup and League Cup. That's it. Liverpool, same damn thing. That's three teams who are just going to say, fuck it, we're going after the league. We're going to go after top four. That's all we care about. That's three teams already. And then, of course, you put us and City out there. And then you put even Tottenham, who is, Vincent Janssen. I love that signing. Why Arsenal wasn't in for him? He's got pace. He's got good ball skills. Not great at finishing, but he would have been a decent backup for Giroud or a guy who could really try to challenge him. He was something different from Giroud, especially with the pace that he has. Tottenham got him for 15 fucking million. That was it. Just don't get it. I don't. I think this is our year. I think this is our year where the luck is going to finally run out. because I just can't see it happening. People are trying to make a case that if we got a better winger than what we have now, things would be better. Yeah, we need more production out of our right wing or the wing that Alexis Sanchez doesn't play on. But you still had the same fucking striker up top every fucking game who is not clinical enough, who rather pass than shoot. I don't know what these people are. They're watching imagination TV. They just dream up their own shit. Game after game. Maybe they go on FIFA or something, the latest version of FIFA, and they play as Giroud or something, and he scores like 20 goals a game. When they play it on beginner or something, when they play the computer on beginner, oh look at him, he's so fucking awesome. I don't understand it. I really don't get it. How these people can still make excuses after fucking excuses after excuses. But this is the year, man. This is the year that I mean, yeah, it was all fun and games last year, laughing at Chelsea, laughing at Liverpool, laughing at Manchester United, laughing at all these teams. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a laugh this coming season. Just think about it. It's going to be 5 years, 5 seasons now removed from RVP. Five. This is going to be the fifth season. This is going to be the fourth season with Mesut Ozil, the best number 10 in the world. Every single former player from his national team to Real Madrid, they've all said the same things. You give him a clinical striker, that dude will win you the league. They've all said it. Philip Lahm, name them. Cristiano Ronaldo. These are some of the best players in the fucking world. Best players that we've seen in this generation of football players. All saying the same fucking thing, but this fucking French god, supposedly, has no fucking clue. He's delusional. He's delirious at this point. You almost have to ask, is there really something structurally wrong with him inside, in his brain? All the news reports, newspapers, media outlets, fans are all saying the same exact fucking thing except for this guy. The one person, that's it. But, yeah, I don't feel better after I said all that, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll feel better when I wake up in the morning, but Jesus Christ, something needs to change, man. I hope this is the last year because thank fucking God. Hopefully it's his last year. Because then we'll really find out if it was really Arsene Wenger or if it's the Arsenal board, Gazidis, and Stan Kroenke cutting his legs off, cutting his feet off, cutting his ankles off, whatever you want to call it. That's when we'll really find out when a new manager comes in of how much freedom with the money that Arsene Wenger did have. And that'd be fucking hilarious if a new manager comes in next season and he just spends like £100 million without blinking an eye. That would be fucking hilarious. Because then everybody would see, everybody that's completely blind, all those AKBs that are completely fucking blind currently, would finally see that Arsene Wenger was the real problem at this football club. But that's it. Tell me what you guys think. Are we gonna sign? I honestly, I just can't see it. If you're gonna sign a guy like Mahrez, he should have been in with the side already. He didn't have any type of national duties, international duties that he had this summer. He could have already been into the side. He already could have been into training. He'd be in the U.S. currently with the with Arsenal playing the MLS All Stars in a couple days. Just don't get it. It's another fumble of a transfer window.